Okay, welcome to sixth lecture of APL 108. In the last lecture, I think we discussed how to get the principal stress, and from the principal stress, we discussed that any normal stress shear stress combination has to be uh, within some boundary. So that we discussed, and also we plotted the Mohr circle for the general state of stress when I have sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3. We plotted the three circles. Also we know what is the radius, where is the center of these circles and all. Now in this circle, in this Mohr circle, we can Mohr circle, we know that the maximum shear stress will be somewhere here, right? So that is nothing but that is equal to the radius of this bigger circle. That tau max is the maximum shear stress is given by sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2. Okay, so this is the maximum shear stress for the given state of stress, and there is one associated normal stress corresponding to this maximum shear stress. So that is this point, this point. So what is that point? The associated normal stress with respect to this maximum shear stress. That is the center of the Mohr circle, right? That is the having radius sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2. Associated normal stress is equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2. So that means if I take a plane in which I get this maximum shear stress, on that plane, for example, this is the particular plane I am talking about. So this is having a shear stress that is equal to tau max. On this particular plane, I have the normal stress that is given by sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2. So this is the normal stress. Tau max is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2. So this is one particular plane on which I get the shear stress maximum, that is sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, and the associated normal stress on that particular plane is equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2. Now, can we put that in this equation? These three equations we discussed, where we can calculate what is the value of normal stress, what is the value of shear stress corresponding to any particular plane where I want to find out the normal and shear stress. Okay, so I'll use this and I substitute this value for sigma n and this value for the tau s, because this is corresponding to one particular plane. Therefore, I can use this to find out what is the orientation of this plane which has this maximum shear stress with respect to the principal directions. So are you getting what I'm trying to say? We are trying to find out on which plane, what is the plane on which you get the maximum shear stress with reference to the principal plane, because all these we have written in terms of the principal values, principal normal stress. Okay, so we can substitute tau s and tau n, sigma n in this equation, and we can find out that L is equal to plus minus root 1 by 2, m is equal to 0, and n is equal to plus minus root 1 by 2. Okay, so this is these are the values of the direction cosine. So what does it suggest? It means that the planes on which the shear stress, the value of the shear stress is maximum, that makes an angle of 45 degree or perpendicular to the 45 degree, 135 degree with respect to the sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 planes, right? Sigma 1, sigma, these are the principal values. So corresponding to this, it is having a inclination of 45 degree or 135 degree with respect to the principal plane. So I can represent, I can show you graphically also. For example, I take this particular element. This has, for example, sigma 1, sigma 2, and sigma 3. With respect to this, I should say that I have a plane on which the shear stress is going to be maximum is 45 degree with respect to this. So that means I should take this particular plane. Okay, so this is the plane I am talking about, or this is the orientation of the element I am considering about. So on this plane I get the shear stress maximum. So that means I can just write that particular element. So this is the orientation of that particular element, which makes an angle of 45 degree with respect to sigma 1 and sigma 2, sigma 3 directions. Okay, so now I have in this is value is same, sigma 2 is same, and I have on this this is the value of tau. This has got tau max, we called it as tau 2 is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3 divided by 2. So that is the value of the shear stress on this. And also there are associated normal stress. I mentioned that on this particular plane, the normal stress value here is equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2, and here also it will be sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2. Of course, there will be on this side also and this side as well. So these are the values of maximum shear stress. On which orientation or on which plane do you get this type of maximum shear stress and maximum normal stress because of the principal stress we already found out. Okay, so is it clear when I say that okay, that I have to write that the plane on which the value of shear stress is maximum, or it can be minimum also, because the minimum value is minus sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, negative of that tau 2 is maximum. The plane on which the value of shear stress is maximum makes angles either 45 degree and 135 degree, because there are other also 135 with respect to the principal directions, with reference to the principal directions. We have not considered the XYZ coordinate system. We have considered the principal directions. Okay, so this particular plane we call it as principal shear plane. So which makes an angle of, for example, I have the sigma 1 here is principal direction, 45 degree to that direction. I have this direction. I have principal shear plane. The normal to that actually makes an angle of 45 degree or 135 degree with respect to the principal direction, sigma 1. So this is the definition of this. Now, if I come back to this Mohr circle, we know that we solved a cubic equation from the characteristic equation and solved this value of sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, which are the roots of the cubic equation. It's a possibility that we can have one unique value and sigma 2 and sigma 3 can be equal, or sigma 1, sigma 2 are equal. So what happens to these three Mohr circles if two of the values are same, right? So that means if sigma 1 is equal to sigma 2, which is actually greater than sigma 3, if you arrange it. So what will happen to the three Mohr circle then? the 3 more circle. Any answer? What will happen if there are only 2 values of principal stresses? 2 are equal and 1 is unique. What will happen to 3?
They will coincide.
They all will coincide.
Coincide means what? How many circles will be there?
2 circles on the point circle.
See, if you look at this figure, 2 are equal. Sigma 1 is equal to sigma 2. That means these 2 points coincide, right? These 2 points will coincide. So that means how many circles are there? There is only 1 circle, right? Reduces to 1 circle. So you can consider the radius of that circle is what? Of radius. What is the radius of the 1 circle? It is sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2 or sigma 2 minus sigma 3 by 2. It can be both, right? Correct? I can also write sigma 2 minus sigma 3 by 2 because sigma 1 is equal to sigma 3. Or I can also write sigma 2 minus sigma 3 by 2. So this is the radius of the circle. And the normal stress or the center is at center. What is the center? Sigma 2 plus sigma 3 by 2 or sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2. So these are the values of maximum shear stress and the associated normal stress corresponding to the maximum shear plane. Okay. These are actually, we can write that the principal direction where shear stress are 0 makes an angle of 45 degree with the plane having maximum principal shear stress, or we can have maximum shear stress. Principal shear plane is the plane on which you have the maximum shear stress. So this is one thing I wanted to discuss, because this also will go further when we discuss the plane stress problem, principal stress in that condition and all. So which are widely used later also. Okay. Now let us say I have the equation, these two equations I'll take again. So let me copy this 2 equations. Copy, and I want these equations again here. Okay, now let us consider these 2 equations. So in this equation, let's say I consider the first equation from this. Now let us consider a plane. Let us consider a plane that is equally inclined to the 3 principal directions. So we are also coinciding the XYZ IJK with respect to that. That means what we are doing here is that we are considering this x-axis, this is y-axis, this is z-axis. I can also call this direction 1, direction 2, and direction 3. Okay. So I am considering a plane. For example, this is the plane I am considering. So this plane has got the normal n, which is given by L is equal to M is equal to N is equal to 1 by root 3. Okay, so this normal makes an angle equal equal with respect to direction 1, 2, and 3, equally inclined with respect to these 2 axes. So if I substitute the value sigma n in this, in the value of sigma n, I get sigma 1 L square, that is sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 by 3. This is also equal to the mean stress, mean stress, right? So such planes, this plane which is equally inclined to the three principal directions are known as the octahedral planes. These are known as octahedral plane. Octahedral plane. So such planes, as we know, that will have L is equal to M is equal to N, which is equal to 1 by root 3. Okay. So how many planes will be there as such? There will be 8 such planes, right? So there will be 8 such planes. For example, I can draw the figure. So like this. These are the way I can write this. Okay, so there will be 8 such planes possible. Therefore, I can say this is sigma 1, this is sigma 2, and I have sigma 3. So these are the octahedral planes which we are talking about. On this we have sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 are mentioned with respect to this. That means the normal and shear stresses we can write. This is the normal stress value is equal to sigma mean, and also I can say that the value of tau, I can use this equation. I can use this equation to write what is the tau S on this plane. So what is the value of shear stress on this plane? I call it as tau octahedral. Tau, it is nothing but tau S. I substitute Lmn is equal to 1 by root 3. So I get this value as sigma 1 square by 3 plus sigma 2 square by 3 plus sigma 3 square by 3 minus sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3. This is the value of sigma octahedral or sigma n, right? Sigma mean square. I can simplify the value of this octahedral shear stress as equal to this octahedral stress square. Okay, so this is the square value. So, okay, so I can write it as tau octahedral square is equal to, I simplify this equation to write 1 by 9 times sigma 1 minus sigma 2 square plus sigma 2 minus sigma 3 square plus sigma 1 minus sigma 3 square. So this is the value. Therefore, I can write down saying that 9 times tau octahedral square is equal to 2 into, just I'm rearranging this again, sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 square minus 6 into sigma 1 sigma 2 plus sigma 2 sigma 3 plus sigma 1 sigma 3. Okay. Therefore, I can write this as equal to, this is the first invariant I1 and this is the second invariant I2. Okay. Therefore, I can say that tau octahedral is equal to root 2 divided by 3 times I1 square minus 3I2 3I2 I think there is a square also, 6 times sigma 1 sigma 2, yeah, 3I2 under root. Okay, so is it correct? I can write it as tau octahedral, that is the octahedral shear stress on an octahedral plane. So this is the definition of this. So now whatever we have written, these are defined with respect to our principal axis, principal directions, and we have not considered the arbitrary or the general state of stress in which you have sigma x, sigma y, and those things, right? So here we are considering the value, these values are with reference to the principal directions, the sigma directions of sigma 1, sigma 2, and sigma 3, like that. Okay, so we have reduced these equations in terms of the invariants, so we can also write this expression tau octahedral or sigma octahedral in terms of sigma x, sigma y, and so on. I can write that sigma octahedral, that is the normal stress on the octahedral plane, is actually sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 by 2. That is this is also equal to I1 by 3. I1 by 3. Therefore, I can say that these are invariants. I can write it as sigma y plus uh, sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z by 3. And similarly, tau octahedral can be written as 9 tau octahedral square is equal to sigma x minus sigma y square plus sigma y minus sigma z square plus sigma z minus sigma x square minus 6 times tau xy square plus tau yz square plus tau xz square. So I can also write in terms of these two. So these are some of the other values of normal as well as shear stress. Where do we use this type of stresses is that when we are doing the design, we consider these values of these stresses, sigma octahedral and tau octahedral. There are some defined failure theories which says that the value of this shear stress, octahedral shear stress and octahedral normal stress, reaches certain threshold value, then the material will start failing or yielding. So to understand those type of failure theories, and it's a very important parameter where you consider a plane which is equally inclined with all the three principal axes. Actually, because of that only we are studying this octahedral normal stress and these things. Fine. And further, now I can have this state of stress. This is the state of stress S is given by sigma x, tau xy, tau xz, tau xy, sigma y, tau yz, tau xz, tau yz, and sigma z. I can write this in terms of let's say I consider a value of sigma mean. I can call this as sigma m, which is equal to sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z by 3. Can also be written as sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 by 3. I can write this as the the stress matrix as sigma m, sigma m, sigma m plus sigma x minus sigma m, sigma y minus sigma m, sigma z minus sigma m. I have tau xy, tau xz, tau yz. So these are the two, we have decomposed the given state of stress into two parts, right? So one we call it as the mean, or this is what we call it as the mean state of stress, or also known as the hydrostatic state of stress. And the second component we call it as deviatoric stress, or I can also call this as pure shear. Okay, so these are also another important aspect when we consider the failure of the material, failure of the component, because of sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Sir, please scroll a little bit upwards.
Sorry, I did not, little bit
Upwards.
Okay.
Yes, so where we were doing sigma x values, bit upwards also.
here?
Like 9. Yeah. So can you explain that sigma OT is equal to sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z divided by 3? How we got this and what actually?
This one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, sure. So we wrote that sigma n by substituting lmn is equal to 1 by root 3 into this equation, right? We get sigma n is equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 by 3. That is the mean normal stress, right?
But
That is the
was
normal stress acting on the octahedral plane. I can write sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 as I1, the first invariant of stress.
yes, sir.
Okay, I1 is also equal to sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z.
Yes, sir.
So sigma arc, that is a normal stress, is equal to I1 by 3, where I1 is equal to sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z.
Okay, sir. Got it. Got it. Thank you, sir.
So once we write the equation in terms of the invariants, then whether you consider the principal directions or you can also consider the uh, the terms in the XYZ coordinate system, Cartesian coordinate system also. So that is my explanation to what you have asked. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now we come back to this. We can decompose the given state of stress into the hydrostatic or the mean component and the deviatoric or the pure shear component. So why do we call this as a pure shear? Is that, for example, if I assume that I1 for this term. So what is I1 for this? It is sigma x minus sigma m plus sigma y minus sigma m plus sigma z minus sigma m, which is equal to sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z minus 3m, which should be equal to 0. Okay, so this is what we consider that the state of stress is pure shear, is similar to what we consider S. For example, pure shear means I have all the normal stress component 0, tau xy, tau xz, tau yz, tau xz, tau yz, sorry, tau xy, tau xz, tau yz, 0. So this is the pure shear case. This is the state of stress at a point when you have the 6 components of stress and you, for example, rotate the plane such that there exists a plane where there are no normal stress acting. There are only pure shear stresses are acting on that particular orientation on all the planes. So such a plane or such a direction coordinate frame of reference, we call it as pure shear state. That means if you get at least one particular way of this type of axis, you call it as pure shear, in which sigma x, sigma y, sigma z are 0, right? It may exist, it may not exist, but this is the way we find for that particular thing. So if it exists, then it is called as a pure shear state, right? So on this pure shear state, I know that I1 is equal to 0. So that I am interpreting it here also. Whenever there is a first invariant of the shear matrix, the stress matrix is 0, we call it as the pure shear case. Only if I1 is 0, otherwise it is not, right? So which is actually we call it as a necessary condition, and there are some literature where you can find that these are not only necessary but also a sufficient condition. So I'm not getting into that. So when I1 is 0, we call it as pure shear case. When I1 is 0, what happens to this octahedral plane is that when I1 becomes 0 means that if there is a pure shear case, then there is no normal stress exist on that particular octahedral plane. So this is one thing. So we can say that whenever we have, for example, with respect to the principal directions, we have defined the octahedral plane. If there is a pure shear case, then there is no normal stress acting on that, right? So there are certain theories in which people assume that any material to fail, it will not fail in the hydrostatic case. So for example, I assume a solid inside water, which is equally compressed by in all the directions, right? So because of that compression, it will not fail. If it fails due to shear. So there are certain people who have brought this idea saying that the material will not fail under hydrostatic case of stress, but it fails due to the pure shear or the deviatoric stress. Because of the distortion of the material and so on. So because of that, it becomes an important aspect. So here we restrict ourselves saying that when I1 is equal to 0, the pure shear state of stress exists, and on that particular plane where you have this I1 is equal to 0 or the pure shear state of stress, the octahedral normal stress will be equal to 0. So that means on such case, when pure shear case, that is I1 is equal to 0. On such case, sigma octahedral is equal to I1 by 3, that is equal to 0. So because of this only. Okay, so this is about the general state of stress. There are certain things we discussed. Okay, so this is about what we call it as the decomposition of stress, how to use the principal stresses for the given state of stress. Now we move on to one more case, which I already discussed in the tutorial class also, which we call it as a plane stress. Plane stress, we assume that, for example, if this is the a planar body, on this, when we call it as the XY plane, on an XY plane, the loading is on the XY plane. So we have the loading, and the deformation. Okay, so the dimension which is normal to XY plane is negligible, right? The size normal to XY plane is not significant. Compared to the planar dimensions. And further, we assume that if this is the directions we are interested, right? This is loaded in the plane only. Maybe point load, maybe distributed load, any type of load. It is loaded in the planar dimension only. And we assume that the normal to the plane, the stresses sigma z is 0. The shear stresses tau xz and shear stress tau yz, these are 0. So that means it is just some kind of simplification we make from the general state of stress, where instead of dealing with 6 components of stress, 3 normal and 3 shear stress, we feel it convenient to solve the problem in the two-dimensional one, in the 2D domain. So that is just our simplification. If there are any deformation or any strain or anything in a direction which we want to ignore because of it being very insignificant, we can do that. That's a mathematical simplification, right? Otherwise, you have to solve for 6 unknowns in the stress, 6 in the strain, 3 in the displacement. Out of there will be 15 number of unknowns total in any 3D elasticity problem you consider. We cannot afford to solve all these 15 variables. So we reduce this problem into different types of problem. So this is the plane stress condition in which sigma z, tau xz, tau yz are 0. The state of stress in this case is purely defined by 3 components, that is sigma x, sigma y, tau xy. So this is the stress matrix for this. Now, every rule we followed in the general state of stress should also be useful for plane stress problem as well.
Excuse
Now,
me, sir.
Yes.
So in the diagram, the z-axis points outwards, from the plane.
The normal, outward the plane, yes.
So the area is not actually, is very significant in this direction.
In the z direction, the thickness is small compared to the in plane dimensions. For example, I consider a plate, a paper sheet of paper like this, which you are applying some kind of load in this direction, right? So the thickness of this sheet is very small when I compare this with the thickness. The thickness is very small compared with the length and breadth of the sheet.
So
such problems.
How sigma z is actually getting 0? I'm not able to get this due to this.
You are not loading this in this direction.
Oh, okay, sir.
It's loaded on the plane only. That is a simplification. There are certain cases where you are loading in the plane only, then only we assume the plane stress case, provided they do not have large thickness and the out of plane stresses are not there, and the shear, the transverse shear tau xz, tau yz, and normal stress sigma z are not there, or they are insignificant.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So we are not loading in this direction, normal or the transverse z direction. Okay. So this is what we have as the state of stress at a particular point. Now let us take, I know the, I want, for example, I have this x-axis, I have y-axis, I have z-axis. Now I would like to consider another plane. Sorry, this is capital X, this is capital Y, and Z also coinciding with the small z axis. So that means I have rotated the plane because it's a planar structure. I just rotate it by a plane. Now I can get what is the value of sigma x. Now, for example, let me consider it in another way, that I have this element where I have sigma small x, sigma y. I have tau small xy. Okay. Now what I do is I just tilt or rotate this about z axis. So that means I just write it in this direction. Okay. So this is my sigma capital X. This is my sigma capital Y. These are the values of tau capital XY. I would like to find out this. So that means this is given an angle theta with respect to the small x axis, right? So I know the equation. Now I know this sigma x is equal to the transformation rule. I know it is sigma x L1 square plus L1 is L. I'm just writing L. Okay, I need 2, right? So L1 M1 M2, right? I take L1 sigma y M1 square plus sigma z N1 square plus 2 L1 M1 tau xy plus 2 M1 N1 tau yz plus 2 L1 N1 tau xz. Similarly, tau capital XY is equal to sigma x L1 L2 plus sigma y M1 M2 plus sigma z N1 N2. So these are the equations we have already discussed. I am repeating the same equation again. Tau xy L1 M1 plus L2 M1 plus tau xz L1 N1 N2 plus L2 N1 plus tau yz M1 N1 N2 plus M2 N1. Now, in the plane stress problem, what we are considering, we can look into this equation. What is L1? L1 is the cosine angle between small x to capital X, that is equal to cos theta, right? M1 is equal to cosine angle between small y axis to capital X, these two, that is equal to cos of pi by 2 minus theta, that is equal to sine theta. And similarly, L2 is equal to cosine angle between x and y, that is minus sine theta, and M2 is equal to cosine angle between y and y, that is cos theta. Okay. So these are the equations. And also we have n1 is equal to n2 is equal to 0 and n3 is equal to 1 because it is the rotation about the z-axis. Now I can consider this equation 1 and this is equation 2. I can put these values in equations 1 and 2. I can find out that I also know that tau xz is 0, tau yz is 0, sigma 3 is equal to sigma z is equal to 0. I can write that sigma capital X is equal to sigma x L1 square plus sigma y m1 square plus 2 L1 m1 tau xy, and similarly sigma capital Y, there is an equation for Y also, or you can substitute theta with theta plus 90 degree. I can write this equal to sigma x L2 square sigma y m2 square plus 2 L2 m2 tau xy, and capital xy tau capital XY is equal to L1 L2 sigma x plus m1 m2 sigma y plus L1 m2 plus L2 m1 tau xy. I can substitute the value and say that tau x L into L1 is equal to cos theta. I can write this as equal to sigma x cos square theta plus sigma y sin square theta plus 2 cos theta sin theta tau xy. I can simplify this by using the trigonometric relations. Cos square theta is equal to 1 plus cos 2 theta by 2. Sin square theta is equal to 1 minus cos 2 theta by 2. And I can say 2 cos theta sin theta is equal to sin 2 theta. And also I have cos square theta minus sin square theta is equal to cos 2 theta. Fine. I can write that sigma capital X is equal to sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus sigma x minus sigma y by 2 cos 2 theta plus tau xy sin 2 theta. This I call it as equation A. Similarly, I can write the sigma y equation as sigma x sin square theta plus sigma y cos square theta minus 2 cos theta sin theta into tau xy, which is equal to sigma x plus sigma y by 2 minus sigma x minus sigma y by 2 cos 2 theta minus tau xy sin 2 theta. Call this as equation B. Similarly, the last equation tau capital XY is minus sigma x cos theta sin theta plus sigma y cos theta sin theta L1 m1 L1 m2 like that. So we are writing that plus cos square theta minus sin square theta into tau xy. So can be simplified as tau xy is equal to minus of sigma x minus sigma y by 2 sin 2 theta plus tau xy into cos 2 theta. So we call this is equation C. So these are the three equations which we are looking at when we want to transform the plane by giving a rotation about the z-axis, right? So these are the values we are looking at. Now here also we can say when I add a and b, sigma x plus sigma y, if I add this, what do I get if I add sigma x plus sigma y? A plus b, what do I get? Any answer?
Sigma small x plus sigma small y.
Sigma x plus sigma y. So this is again is equal to invariant 1, where sigma z is equal to 0, correct? Now let us consider sigma x. There is some angle theta involved in this problem. So from this, can I get what are the extreme values of sigma x, extreme values of tau xy and so on? I can get by taking the derivative of sigma x with respect to theta. First derivative with respect to theta 0. Then I can find out which value of theta will give me the extreme values of sigma x, sigma y. Correct? I can do that. So to get extreme values, what we do is that from equation A, we consider d sigma x by d theta is equal to 0. And if I take the derivative of this equation, I get minus of sigma x minus sigma y sine theta plus 2 tau xy cos 2 theta is equal to 0. So this is the equation we get. Therefore, I can simply, sorry, it's not sine theta, it's sine 2 theta. Sine 2 theta. Therefore, I can write this as tan 2 theta is equal to 2 tau xy divided by sigma x minus sigma y. So here, this angle theta, 2 theta, for example, will give you a plane, will give you the orientation of a plane, which give me the extreme values of sigma x, the normal stress. We usually call this as principal direction. So therefore, I replace this theta with theta p, right? So this theta p is the principal direction. Okay, so I have never said that the normal stress will be maximum or minimum because of this, because in the earlier case, these are the extreme values we obtain from taking the derivative of sigma x with respect to theta. Can I get, for example, I know that I can get the value of principal plane by on which the shear stress is equal to 0. Can I make equation C tau xy is equal to 0 from equation C? So what do I get if I make equation C is equal to 0? Right? So what do I get? That is 0 is equal to minus of sigma x minus sigma y by 2 sine 2 theta plus tau xy cos 2 theta. Okay, so what do I get here? Tan 2 theta is equal to, what is tan 2 theta here?
2 tau
2 tau xy by sigma x minus sigma y. So that means here also theta can be replaced with theta p. That means I can say that whenever on a plane the tau xy value is equal to 0, I get the same direction, that is the principal direction. That means I can conclude that on the principal direction, a principal plane, the shear stress equal to 0 and the values of the normal stress are the extreme values. So these are the two conclusions I can make from these two operations I have done, from equation A and taking the derivative with respect to theta and equating it to 0, and then in equation C by considering the value of shear stress at a plane 0 and finding out what is that particular plane on which the shear stress is going to be 0. These two are same. That means I can say that on a principal plane, the shear stress is 0. The normal stress values are extreme value. Either it is minimum or maximum, because we are only dealing in the two-dimensional state of stress or the plane stress problem. So we can use these values of theta p in our calculation and find out what is the value of the maximum normal stress, what is the value of the minimum normal stress. They are the principal stresses which we can find out. Okay, so that we will take up that as well later. Are there any questions?